Dell Technologies and AMD present the Cybersecurity Tapes.
Almost every story about a cyber attack starts the same way, with something small, something you may have missed.
But these days, when there are a million small things coming straight at you, all the time, non-stop,
That is a big problem. This is the Cybersecurity Tapes. I'm Steve Keniston.
and I'm Max Robidoux.
So we're doing something a little different.
Every episode features a brand new story
A fictional story.
based on real-world experiences in the world of cybercrime.
Max and I will be back to discuss how this story stacks up against reality and pass along some of our own expertise. So with that,
Roll the tape.
The incidents portrayed in this episode of the Cybersecurity Tapes are fictitious. No identification with any persons, places, companies, or products is intended or should be inferred. Drew Marciano did everything right, especially when it came to cybersecurity, and that's precisely the reason why he came out unscathed after the shakeup. The startup he and some friends had started on a whim had been acquired, and now things are different. He suddenly finds himself ensnared in the mysterious and irresistible goo of big money venture capital. As far as his new role in the company went, the only real difference was that they added an S. He went from being the Chief Information Officer to the Chief Information Security Officer, which sounds similar, but don't be fooled. They are in fact very different, very distinct jobs. But that was no matter. The expectations of his new title were only a fraction of what he had already been doing. It was the expectations of the new board he wasn't so sure about.
3 months ago, I'd only been the CISO for 2 months. 9 weeks. And it was time for the quarterly with the board. No big deal. I was ready for it, just painting a picture. 3 of the 5. When I walked in, 3 of the 5 people in that room, that was our first time ever meeting in person. In the room, there was the esteemed chairperson, Charles O'Donovan, CEO Robin, 2 investors, Quinn and Crusoe. Heavy hitters. And a mysterious 5th. We were never really introduced. Victor was his name. Wild bio. He only spoke once or twice, but whenever he did, everybody leaned in.
In Drew's mind, he had lost the first round against the new board, and now the countdown to round 2 was nearing 0. Hoping to not repeat the same mistakes, he calls in some backup, an old friend and colleague who may have a few pointers.
I doubt it's anywhere near as bad as you think it is. I've seen you do your thing many times, in rooms both big and small. You put on a great show.
Thank you, but the show may be the problem. Back before we got acquired, it was just the 2 founders and then Barry and me. End of list. That was management.
Oh, how is Barry?
He didn't make the move to owner's suite, but believe me, he's doing just fine.
Barry being Barry, I'm sure.
When it was time for the quote-unquote board to meet, we all got up from our desks and walked over to the conference room. We built the company together. We knew each other's stakes.
I get it. In that room, you had to use a fine-point pen to sketch things out because if one line was out of place, it could shut the whole thing down. This new board, they're using rollers, big, fat strokes with nice, clean edges. It's a different dynamic. Just wait until after an IPO. That's a minefield stocked with pastries. But I'm still confused. What do you need me for? I reviewed your strategy, the IR plan we put together. It's solid. Have you been practicing it? There are always new gaps to fill, screws to tighten. I can help put together some recommendations, but honestly, when you consider the budget we had to work with, you're about as buttoned up as any board could hope for. Did something happen between then and now I should know about?
Oh yeah, lots of somethings. In the last quarter, Owner's Suite Media was targeted by just shy of 2,300 attempted cyber attacks, which is actually up from last quarter, but our alert to incident and containment time went down. Which, that's great news, but 3 of them broke through. 3 breaches.
Bad.
Bad. Yes, of course bad. One was a ransomware attack that we eventually paid, but wasted so much time just getting to that decision. We're still investigating, but downtime probably, I don't know, tripled?
Oh, Drew. I taught you better than to pay a ransom. There must have been a good reason.
Good probably isn't the best word for it. We had reasons. First and foremost, our business is live streams, as in live, happening right now in real time. And downtime and real time don't mix. But the hack also exposed a compromise in the backup system. Something, I think, slipped in during the migration of our networks over to Owner's Suite. Again, still investigating, but it just got to a point where you know you're going to take a punch, and all you can do is try to make it hurt as little as possible.
If they're sitting on the board of a media company, I'm sure they're already well aware that cyber attacks are essentially inevitable. It's a business expense that needs to be factored in. That's not on you.
I know it's irrational, but I feel like I'm the new guy. On thin ice.
You're not.
Like I said, it's irrational. Based on the bar I set for myself in that last meeting, and the expectations I set for them, I don't know. I feel like I came in hot. All offense, throwing everything I had at them. The look on their faces? So now, already wounded from before, and with these new breaches under my arm, I'll be walking back in that room on defense. And at a time when the company needs innovation more than ever. That's not the side you want to be on. It makes it very hard to move the ball forward being on defense.
I think I'm starting to understand. Okay, let's review the footage. That first meeting. Give me the highlights.
Interesting story here, Max. So in this particular episode, we're talking about the importance of how to talk to your board about cybersecurity.
It's funny, this topic sounds so simple, but as we just heard, it can go sideways really fast. You know, Maria has that great line, just wait until after an IPO, that's a minefield stocked with pastries. It's funny, but, you know, it's also exactly right. You know, there's higher stakes, everything's more regulated. And look, Drew already lost round one, right? He walked in that board meeting, he's talking in this deep technical language, but the board's trying to have a business conversation with him, right? They care about risk, they care about exposure, time to recover, financial impact, things like that. That's really the crux of what we're getting at here, right? It's the cyber leaders speak in one way, they speak in controls and tools, architectures, but the boards, they're all about, you know, dollars, outcomes, risks. If you can't translate to them, you're going to lose the room. And that's what happened to Drew there, even if he's doing all the right things technically. In another piece here, we talk about the ransom and paying the ransom. That has to be a board level conversation. So he says he paid the ransom, but, you know, oftentimes we hear never pay because you never really know what you're going to get back. But is the never pay, is that what really happens in your experience, Steve?
No, definitely not. In fact, we've heard many customers talk about they had to pay the ransom, I want to say like on paper, because they wanted to showcase to the rest of the world that they were trying to do everything they possibly could to protect their customers' data. And I think customers in the outside world feel like if you pay the ransom, that's a better thing. And we know internally, and we've seen it a number of times, that it's not the right thing.
No, it's not. And, you know, in reality, oftentimes that decision's pretty messy, right? There's live streams, real-time revenue, broken backups. It's kind of a business trade-off.
It goes beyond just, is the business secure? The board is starting to now think about this thing from a customer perspective. And that has a whole set of different, you know, not tools and technology like you were saying, but financial impact to the company. And you want to be prepared for that.
And this is a really good example of why you can't wait for the crisis to explain this to the board. So think about what a good board conversation would look like. It's almost, Drew's going to have to reframe what he was talking about, you know, not leading with the tools, leading with things like, has our risk increased or decreased, or tying some of the decisions he's making on the cyber side of things, like paying a ransom, for example, to downtime, revenue, things like that. So trying to make sure that the board knows how you measure risk over time, not just, you know, how many alerts you saw or how much this tool is going to cost.
That's exactly right. So I'm really interested in hearing the rest of this story. How about you, Max?
Yeah, let's roll the tape.
Data security is even more important in the era of AI. As the use of digitization, cloud computing, AI, and other emerging technologies fuel the growth of data, the need for advanced security measures becomes even more pressing. The heightened need for security is further amplified by the increased global emphasis on privacy regulations and the severe penalties for breaches, highlighting the unparalleled value of data amid rising security risks. Built in at the silicon level, AMD Infinity Guard offers the advanced capabilities required to defend against international and external threats and help keep your data safe.
Mr. Marciano, welcome.
It's Marciano. I get that a lot, though. Common mistake.
My apologies. Mr. Marciano it is. We're all excited to have you on board. You are quite impressive on paper, quite impressive indeed. What you built at that startup of yours will be a tremendous asset for us. I have no doubt you will be as well.
I appreciate that, sir. Thank you.
Speaking of tremendous assets, before we move into projections, I'd like a few minutes on cyber risk following the acquisition. I want to acknowledge the speed at which the teams have worked to stabilize. That said, from a financial risk standpoint, I need some clarity, specifically in inherited exposure.
Mr. Marcianello, the floor is yours.
And how did you respond?
It was so broad, I didn't know where to start. So I just started. Post-acquisition cyber risk exposure. Let's dive in. From a technical standpoint, we're looking at a few things here. The existing attack surfaces, the control maturity, privileged access pathways, and the inherited trust relationships within the combined enterprise architecture.
Let me stop you right there.
Already? That was just the first question.
I'm stopping you because that was the first question. I don't have time for an answer like that. What makes you think they would? You're gonna run out the play clock. What was the next question?
Crusoe, I think trying to put me out of my misery. He asked,
Has our risk increased or decreased?
To which you said,
decreased.
good answer. So far. And what else?
That was it.
Oh. Who broke that silence?
The chair, O'Donovan. Eventually, he said,
Well, that's certainly good to hear.
He's not wrong. Let's move on. The CEO, Robin. I'm sorry, I've only ever seen her last name written out.
it's pronounced Shay.
Robin Shea. What did she ask?
Do we have 4-day disclosure readiness?
Well, do you?
Absolutely. We do, yes, is what I should have said. Instead, I attempted to prove my knowledge of SEC regulations and my track record with adherence. I think I was trying to prove to them that I was a tremendous asset.
Did it work?
I definitely felt like an asset.
Okay, speed round. Other questions they asked. Go.
What is our estimated financial exposure from a major breach?
What cyber risks are uninsured or underinsured?
If we were hit with an attack tomorrow, how quickly could we restore operations?
How are we measuring risk reduction over time?
That last one's a biggie. It all sounds great in theory, but how do you measure it? Were any of those questions the one that the mysterious fifth board member asked?
Victor. No, his was less... It stood out from the others.
I have a question. If we're hacked during a live stream, concert or a game, what have you, will the show go on? Is there a chance I could miss the end?
So Max, I'm really starting to get it now, right? Victor really had spelled out the customer experience is what he and probably the rest of the board is thinking about, because that has downstream impacts to the business. This is exactly what we're talking about how the board thinks about problems within their company. They're thinking about the customer experience, the finances, and that sort of thing, right?
Yeah, that's exactly right, Steve. Victor's really seeing the big picture here. So if the stream dies, the customers lose access, they'll probably want a refund. Then, this technical incident becomes something that's financial, possibly reputational, maybe even regulatory if we want to go that far down the line. So this is really where the cyber teams have to translate. So instead of Drew going in there and saying, we had an outage of X minutes, instead he should say something like, we risk losing, this amount of dollars in refunds or this amount of customers. Maybe even getting our name in the headline for all the wrong reasons. And when you put it like that, the board's not just hearing downtime, they're hearing customer experience, they're hearing top line revenue, they're hearing shareholder impact. But it's not just a problem for the customers, right, Steve? What's in it for the IT department?
Yeah, I think as you approach the board and you're talking to the board and then thinking about how they think about things, if you go in with the right mindset and you talk to them in such a way that they comprehend and understand what you're trying to do for the business, that makes you or your organization look more prominent. They look smarter about trying to achieve what the overall business objectives are, which in turn makes the board feel like they can trust you. They know what you're doing. They know what you want to put in place. They know what your objectives are. And then when you go and you have to ask for money to go solve different problems or yearly budget problems, you're more apt to get what you're asking for versus if the board doesn't understand you.
Yeah, Steve, I couldn't have said it better myself. That functional group doesn't look like it's on top of things. You know, if you can't clearly explain the risk, can't clearly explain the plan, when it comes time to ask for some money, you know, you're a lot less likely to get that budget that you need. So, you know, it's about showing the board in their own language, how do these cyber investments protect revenue, reputation, future growth, and ultimately, you know, the business model.
Yeah, I think this is a great episode, and I think it's something folks can take to heart.
I like Victor. How did you respond to that one?
We ran out of time. It was a room full of hard outs.
It's always about time, isn't it? Time to detect, time to react, time to restore. When the buzzer goes off, the score is final. If everything you've told me is true, then whatever this is, whatever you think happened in that boardroom, you are forgiven. That said, if you don't mind a little advice.
The first thing I said when I called you was, "Help, I need advice."
I have a couple of ideas that might whip you into better shape, improve your form, something from the Boardroom Playbook, which that's not a real thing, just, you know, sports analogies.
Put me in, coach.
Marvelous. Let me just set a timer here real quick. How long was that last meeting?
Was supposed to be an hour, started late, 40 minutes. Why?
Perfect. We're going to run some drills. I have the questions written down. Your time starts now.
This episode of the Cybersecurity Tapes was produced by Dell Technologies and AMD. The hosts and executive producers are Steve Keniston and Max Robidoux. It was written by Steve Keniston, Samir Shah, Max Robidoux, Mike Wiebe, and Bradley Parrott, directed by Bradley Parrott. Featuring performances from Ben Wolf, Lauren Mayhew, Robert Pearson, Heath Allen, and Danu Mara. Edited by Tim Edwards and Bradley Parrott. Sound design by Andy Slater. If you enjoyed this episode, please like, subscribe, and leave us a review. Or visit thecybersecuritytapes.com to learn more.